Who's this?
William Garrow from Lincoln's Inn.
By way of?
Sir.
Well, not Oxford, or I'd know you.
Article to an attorney, John Suithouse of Milk Street.
Ah. You received your education in Billingsgate.
Oh, dear.
Sylvester. Middle Temple. Come to condemn the wretches or confound the jury today?
Come to defend a man.
What's the first case?
Peter Pace.
Ah. You're against me. And the facts.
Court shall rise.
Still, it need only detain us a few hours. Then what's next? Ah, coining. Well, that will be 2 hangings before lunch. Recommend the broth.
I recommend you read your brief again.
The prisoner, Peter Pace, is indicted for that he, in the King's Highway, in and upon William Grove, feloniously did make an assault, putting him in corporeal fear and danger of his life, and stealing from his person 2 shillings in moneys numbered, the property of the said William Grove. Call William Grove.
So, the alarm being raised, we gave chase. Mr. Forrester, myself, and Mr. Stoddart, who'd witnessed the assault upon me.
Mr. Grove, at the magistrates' committal, you swore to the identity of the fellow. Could you please do so now again for the benefit of this court? You lie! Behold the prisoner! A human not to be encountered on any lonely byway.
No more questions.
You know this man?
I know this is the man who robbed me.
You swore before the magistrate that the man who robbed you covered his face with a handkerchief.
Yes. Yes.
So how were you able to swear to Mr. Pace?
This man rode a grey mare.
Is there a horse in the dock, Mr. Grove?
Sir?
The grey mare, accused of robbery.
I do not know what you mean, sir.
Well, your only means of identification is by way of the horse my client was riding. You could not swear to his face, could you? You could only swear to his horse. What words did your attacker make use of?
He demanded my money or my life.
Those are the very words, your money or your life.
Well, he expressed it in that manner. He came up, shows me the pistol, and then says he...
Your money or your life. Remarkable. You were robbed of 2 shillings.
I was.
Oh, dear. Still, £40 is better than 2 shillings.
Well, I don't know that it is. Under a wrong cause.
A wrong cause? You know it is not every day that one gets £40 reward for hanging a man. Is that not your cause?
Well, my learned friend, Mr. Garrow, has a very rude approach.
Mr. Garrow, do not speculate. Interrogate. And do so with a little more delicacy.
Hear, hear.
Who paid for this prosecution?
Mr. Forrester.
Mr. Forrester. Mr. Forrester, the renowned thief-taker.
Yes, sir.
And who paid for your expenses to attend this business?
Mr. Forrester.
What assistance that man does provide. No further questions, my lord.
Thank you, Mr. Grove.
I think Mr. Garrow makes an impression on the jury.
Forrester appears next, and he has made an impression on many juries.
Oh, Edward Forrester.
The robbery takes place on the road from Hounslow to Hanworth, where a thief-taker is dining at that very hour. A rare convenience.
The good fortune of those in need.
You had no fear to pursue a man who would wield a pistol.
I had a pistol of my own, sir.
Who paid for this prosecution?
I paid half a guinea.
Who paid for the indictment?
I did.
To see justice done.
To obtain the conviction of a guilty man who would put others in fear and danger of their life.
You are quoting the indictment.
It's also my belief.
As a thief-taker.
And as a man.
But as the former, you are a taker of rewards for the apprehension and conviction of those found guilty of serious crimes.
As the government sees fit.
And are you hoping for a reward here?
I would not presume on the judge, the jury, or the law.
I put it to you that this crime did not take place.
A man was caught, brought before the magistrate, and stands here now.
Put it to you that you paid Grove to make a hue and cry against an innocent man, turn him all at once into a highwayman.
Innocence is the jury's business.
Put it to you that you invented this robbery. Put it to you that the victim and the witness are schemes of your own fiction, as is the blameless prisoner you accuse as your robber.
Mr. Garrow, it is your job to excite distrust of the evidence, not to make a speech on your client's behalf.
Please forgive my learned friend, my lord. Until today, he's never actually been in the law.
How long have you been in the honourable business of thief-taking?
I can't rightly tell.
Well, guess a little. How long have you been a thief?
Well, clearly sometime longer than you've been a counsellor.
How many...
Sir?
How many trials did you appear upon last sessions?
Never a one.
What, there was no blood money last sessions?
There were no thieves. How do you get a brief? Unless this be your last.
No more questions, my lord.
Thank you, Mr. Forrester. Gentlemen, you'll consider your verdict.
You may wish to leave this place.
I cannot until I know my brother's fate.
You have reached a verdict?
Unanimously.
How do you find the prisoner?
Guilty.
No! No! Oh, please, God, have mercy. Don't judge her. I beseech you.
The sentence is death. Death by hanging. Take the prisoner down.
It troubles you not to derive your living from the groans of the gallows.
Mr. Garrow!
The man is all aflutter, my lord. I should demand satisfaction had I not already found it in the verdict.
Apologise to Mr. Sylvester.
I will only apologise to my client.
Then I shall commit you.
So your lordship may.
Mr. Garrow, you're hot-headed and intemperate. This is your first case here, and you have lost it. So I forgive you. Now sit down. Next prisoner.
May I?
No.
Eat. Broth. You need food, man. That and a stronger constitution. It is the lot of defense counsel to see their clients carried off to Tyburn. I was determined mainly to prosecute, far more congenial. As for the rights of prisoners, that's a very irregular income.
You will learn that the law is not a game for gentlemen.
Will I? And you will learn to become a gentleman, or there should be no law for you at all.
Mr. Garrow.
Sir Arthur Hill, MP, invites you to dinner.
Now you have an opportunity, Garrow.
Are you familiar with the phenomenon of cutlery?
I've made law and order my business in Parliament, Mr. Garrow. But I fear I understand the law only as we legislate, and not as it is practiced. Even an MP should not be quite so narrow.
So you do attend the Old Bailey, Sir Arthur?
I am fortunate to have the attendance of my wife there.
Mr. Garrow, we are grateful that you did accept our invitation.
Lady Sarah.
Well, I imagine those that see me at the bench would consider me there for my leisure and sport. And Judge Buller does certainly think me very elegant alongside him.
And how could you not look so beside him?
But I'm not there for his decoration.
But on my behalf, so that I'm informed from the very place where justice is dealt.
The law be dealt there, but no justice.
You would enlighten us? I'm sorry if you feel a source of inquiry for a good dinner, but I think at least you should have your dinner before you feel so used.
The law is the concern of us all here.
We are under siege in London from ruffianism, from Chick Lane to the Ratcliffe Highway. We all do well to employ our own watchmen.
And form our own societies. You have heard of the Society for the Reformation of Manners, Mr. Garrett?
You campaign, Mrs. Browning?
We bring prosecutions in the hope that it will be improving.
Improving manners in illegitimacy, adultery, bawdy houses, molly houses, prostitution.
What's a molly house?
And what do you know of such?
I pay attention at the Old Bailey, as you would have me do, is all.
Pay attention to...
Sodomy, Mr. Sowerby. Sodomy and catamites.
Please, sir, you may examine me.
My wife did remark that your defense of a prisoner was very singular.
That's why we did invite you here.
You do not favor the protection of our society in prosecution.
The bloody code upheld. The terror of the rope, the branding iron. The thief-taker's corruption that sends innocent men to Tyburn.
And you think a battle amongst counsel the best way of arriving at the truth?
The prisoner in the dock has been far too long left to his fate for want of counsel.
And is your loyalty to the prisoner? Or your fee?
My loyalty is to the truth.
But you'll settle for a finding of not guilty regardless of the truth.
And you think we should eke out injustice all day long for one wrong verdict that may come between?
I will not believe that the law is a lie. And I think I may be better minded to listen to talk of reform were it not so bound up with the burgeoning prospects of defense counsel.
Now there's a truth for you.
Did not the felon firmly fix his hope on floor or jaw and so escape the rope? Justly he'd meet that fate without reprieve that comes when the advocate fails to deceive.
Good satire, sir. It seems your investigations into the law were concluded before they had begun.
If I'm not a source of satire for a good dinner, I will also not be a source of amusement for it.
I remember my father teaching at the school where my education was under his superintendence. We were both mocked, him by his better-born pupils for the plainness of his background, and myself for the fact that no fee was paid for my education. My father's service was the fee. He suffered their insults behind his back. He never turned to face them down.
And you were taken out?
Because I would bite and scratch. They were for Oxford, I was articled.
And I was grateful for it.
And now? My dear friend, I thank you for your trust, but you should not have instructed me with the case.
Well, now you are instructed at least.
But I was undone by my arrogance, my inexperience.
You lacked manners. You were too angry. You lost control. And what did you mean to challenge Judge Buller? You are in the law. You cannot be in contempt of it.
The law itself is contemptible.
And perhaps you are not ready to practice it. Your new chambers are very commodious.
If I may still have use for them.